Earth as a singular planet. In fact, it is anything but. For this is a story not of a universe, but a multiverse, where universes and planets, such as Earth, were replicated and mirrored across a vibrating, infinite plane. Some barely different from the next. Others drastically so.
This is DC On Screen. Every week, Dave and Jason talk about the multiverse of DC properties on film and television. But be warned, if it's been officially released, you can expect they'll spoil it.
Alright, so welcome into DC On Screen. This is episode 431. And, today, this week's been a crazy week in the news. A lot of, I'm getting really sick of going onto Facebook. Because Facebook is really pissing me off with these clickbait articles. Like, there's, I'm a member of a lot of, like DC related groups, and, there's always some jackass in there who's, is confirmed, and, saying some erroneous bullshit that has nothing to do with anything.
Sure. Facebook swears they're working on this, but it's way more, they're worried about geopolitical stuff. They're not to the DC part of working on that yet.
Yeah, so... We kind of got a lot to talk about tonight.
Let's do it.
Over at Vulture, this person named Abraham Reisman, and this is the film news, by the way. This person, Abraham Reisman, got to interview Diane Nelson and Geoff Johns and a bunch of the other big top dogs over at DC Entertainment. Mm-hmm. And, at times in this editorial, this guy seems very anti-DC. And then sometimes he seems pretty fair, when he obviously didn't have to be. So whatever, I'm kind of just taking it carefully. But this article has led to people freaking out, thinking that WB was going to stop making the films interconnected. And that's mostly due to bullshit clickbait from websites linking to the article and just kind of quoting it. But here's what's going on. And I'll be reading directly from Abraham's editorial here. He says the following: they are not giving up on the idea of continuity, but they want to de-emphasize the idea that all of these flicks are occupying the same space. And then Diane Nelson says, our intention certainly moving forward is using the continuity to help make sure nothing is diverging in a way that doesn't make sense, but there's no insistence upon an overall storyline or interconnectivity in that universe. Which apparently, according to the article, drew nods from the top brass around her. Geoff Johns says the movie's not, talking about Wonder Woman, says the movie's not about another movie. Some of the movies do connect the characters together, like Justice League. But like with Aquaman, our goal is not to connect Aquaman to every movie. The operative word there being every. And then Diane Nelson says, moving forward, you'll see the DC Universe being a universe, but one that comes from the heart of the filmmaker who's creating them. I don't think we're looking at anything different than what we've already had. I mean, not every movie should be connected to the overall storyline.
Sure, but I understand what they're addressing the expectations the MCU has set. So I get where they're coming from.
Yes and no. Like the MCU has, look at Ant-Man. How much was that really tied into the overall story?
Well, he showed up in Civil War, and he's expected to show up in an Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp 2, and then he is possibly going to be... Actually, I think he's supposed to definitely be in Infinity War.
That's not the issue. That's just setting up a character. Nothing that happened in Ant-Man affects Infinity War. Nothing that happened in Civil War really had anything to do with Ant-Man other than he was there for a minute. You established a character. I think they're just saying that they're just not doing, Aquaman is not going to be, have a bunch of damn mother boxes in it, is what I think they're saying here.
No. I meant the expectation. In the Marvel Universe right now, if you saw a movie, you saw it, you went on about your day, but as the years have gone by, we've expected, Infinity War. We've been looking at this thing for a minute now. And especially since the announcement and since it became a bigger and bigger deal, we expected more out of it. At this point, if you'd told me, hey, Doctor Strange isn't going to be in Infinity War, I would have been pissed. Come on.
Yeah,
you've been telling me about all this. Right. Bring them all in. Let's do it.
Sure.
So if DC's trying to kind of bank it the other way a little bit, I think that sounds like what they were doing is kind of saying, look, every movie isn't a lead up to another movie. We're gonna do things with these characters that sometimes are going to connect to other characters, and that doesn't necessarily mean there's not a Justice League movie set in 2021 where all this wraps
Right.
up.
I just think people are freaking out because they think that suddenly Aquaman is not going to be in universe, and it is.
Well, they're doing it on the heels of the news about the Joker a few weeks ago, where
Well, actually, this dude talked about that.
yeah.
He says, one of the centerpieces of this new decentralized strategy is an as-yet unnamed side label of occasional movies that are completely separate from everything else, set entirely outside the cinematic universe. Total standalones based on good ideas from big filmmakers. Movies that are just movies, not components of a larger piece of clockwork. The first one they're talking about is a solo outing about supervillain The Joker, set to be directed and co-written by the Hangover and War Dogs alumnus Todd Phillips. John says they'll be announcing the name of this side label, quote, soonish. So we don't have... I mean, this is to be taken somewhat with a grain of salt, I feel, because we don't have a full quote from Geoff Johns or Diane Nelson about any of this. This is what this guy, it's Abraham Reisman, is saying. And the only word that he quoted was soonish from Geoff Johns.
Yeah.
But now, he also goes into some interesting stuff about how Geoff Johns and Diane Nelson were basically heading up DC Entertainment. And their role in Man of Steel, apparently one person is how they're referenced here. It says Geoff Johns and Diane were reading scripts, and Geoff Johns, to his credit, was concerned that there was not enough lightness or humor given who the character is, recalling one person with knowledge of the making of Man of Steel. Geoff definitely raised that point, but that current administration didn't care that much about what Geoff Johns thought. We've often, cited Geoff Johns as being, listed in the credits for like Man of Steel and different, movies, BVS, which apparently he wasn't really consulted with truly on that as well.
Yeah.
According to this article and according to the administration that this guy talked to. But when you flash forward to Justice League, apparently, according to the article, DC Entertainment is looking for someone other than Zack Snyder to write Justice League additional photography scenes. Geoff Johns says everyone was excited about Joss being a part of DC, and we thought he'd be great to write the Justice League scenes, the additional photography scenes that we wanted to get. And then the guy says, when I asked Johns about the criticism that it seems like there's no strategy, he shows a rare break from his usual buoyancy. And Johns says, some of the stuff is true, some of it isn't true. When we talk about things or we're making deals for people to develop scripts or whatever, sometimes things leak. Sometimes things are misreported. And it's frustrating because we do want to go out there and talk about what our strategy is, and this stuff just muddies the water. There's a lot of internal conversations about going on about how do we kind of clean that up a bit. So I wanted to get to that bit specifically because I think it's important to note that, as we've talked about on this show ad nauseum at this point, shit is always going to be in development, and you can't just freak out about this stuff because back in the old days, you just didn't know it was going to happen. And there's so much stuff that was in development that didn't happen. Go back to our DC films that never happened trilogy of episodes if you don't believe us.
Yeah. And also in an actor's contract, they can do a thing where they kind of basically retain you. You're stuck for a year. And you can't grow a mustache or some crap like that. Like you can get stuck in a contract for X amount of time, and even that doesn't mean that's the reason they have it for X amount of time. It doesn't seriously until people show up and principal photography is begun.
Yeah,
honestly don't count on it.
They had several suits made for Nicolas Cage. We never saw that movie, did we?
We saw a hell of a documentary, but other than that,
yeah. I do think it's interesting that. I don't want to bash, but all of this about them ignoring Geoff Johns for Man of Steel and BVS, that all tracks with me. It feels real. Maybe it's not, but it all tracks with me. So as far as I'm concerned,
yeah. Think about how included he's been. If the narrative is we ignored Johns before, we got this criticism, and now you're seeing an inclusion of Geoff Johns that wasn't there until really after BVS.
Yeah.
It does. The narrative is valid. I don't know if it happened, but like you said, it tracks.
And you know what? Longtime listeners know that I have my issues with Man of Steel. I like the movie, but I have my issues with it. I have my issues with not Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. I like the movie. I'm not crazy about the fact that Batman kills. Yes, I can set it aside in my mind because, we have plenty of source material showing the guy doing it. Mm-hmm. Superman too. Mm-hmm. I think Zack Snyder is a very good filmmaker. I don't necessarily agree with all of his decisions. Like, if you're starting a franchise about Superman, maybe not start out the movie with him killing people.
Yeah.
Essentially, or the franchise, I mean, not the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe don't introduce a new Batman by showing him killing a bunch of people. Now, I will wholeheartedly say that, like, look, all you people screaming about, like, Nolan's Batman didn't kill. He claimed he didn't, but we have several instances of him doing so.
He very much did.
So, every Batman on screen has killed, except for maybe the animated series. We're not counting that right now. We're just talking about live action.
Yeah.
They've all killed.
Even then, like, if you had extra frames of some of those scenes, maybe.
Anyway.
Like, we've said this several times. Adam West killed people.
He did. It's like, he kicked a dude, and he disappeared, and he suspected a thing, so he tried it again, and went, yep, I killed him.
There's only slightly more to it than what you just said. That's what happened.
Oh. Like, well, apparently, if you hit them after they've restabilized, they just disappear and they cease to exist.
It's kind of like in matter, antimatter. Oh, look, they just cease to exist. Huh. I'm going to verify this with, yep. Bye, George.
All right, so Charlie Phantom over on Twitter wrote to Geoff Johns and says, Cinematic Universe has only begun and you are already pulling the rug out from under it. Please keep the universe connected. Geoff Johns responded, it 100% is. So, I don't know. I take that to somewhat mean that even if they're doing side movies, it might still be connected later on down the line. But the Cinematic Universe is still connected, so everyone, calm down.
I think that's... I don't know. If I'm reading it right, that's the point they were making, was it's not a building, we're not like the base of a pyramid building to the top, it's just a spider web.
Yeah.
It's all going to be connected, but it may not be, aiming for one grand story. Which
and, I don't...
might be a bit of a shame, but yeah.
I think certain ones will build to the story and others won't, but...
I think it might have to do with how well the Justice League does, to be honest. Really?
I think so. I think you're right. But, what else I think is, one of the benefits we have, one of the benefits DC has of being so far behind Marvel is they can see what exactly Marvel's doing wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, they might need to focus on what Marvel's doing right for a second. But I've enjoyed, on some level, all of the DCEU movies that have come out so far. Mm-hmm. So I'm not bitching about it necessarily, but at the same time, they have the ability to look forward at Marvel and say, yeah, they've been building to this huge storyline, this Infinity War forever, but don't we really kind of have some Infinity War fatigue at this point? Like, I'm personally tired of waiting on it. Like, I kind of feel like I don't even want to see Infinity War because I feel like there's no way it's going to live up to my expectations. I'm like, we've been sitting here for, 10 years waiting on this shit.
That is a
How is this
real
gonna be good?
possibility, and it would be funny if 25 years from now we were talking about how, MCU just bit off more than they could chew. When you really look at it, the DC stuff stood up better because it had a mild approach.
Maybe, but
that might be a thing.
I don't know. I will say this: like, while I thought I saw that Infinity War trailer that they put together. Uh-huh. While I felt like, hey, that's that's badass. That's cool. That's really awesome. I also kind of felt like I'm a little disappointed. Like, I want something that doesn't even I don't even want to see like a movie. I just want to see like a series of crazy images that my brain can't like wrap itself around. You know what I mean? Like, I
do. I think but the way you want Infinity War as directed by Akira Kurosawa. You just want like a series of bizarre images that are at once gorgeous and two probably meaningful if you looked at it and had enough time.
And I'll tell you this: after Civil War, I don't want the Russos dealing with Infinity War. I I would almost, and this is going to sound crazy, I kind of almost want Zack Snyder to come in and do it.
that will sound crazy. There's no freaking way. I'm actually more ruined on Whedon for MCU than I am the Russo Brothers, because the Russo Brothers, at least, I enjoyed Civil War. It wasn't. There has been a lot of like backlash, especially out of DC fans. Like it was like, well, it was more like BVS than you thought, and blah blah blah. Well, first of all, it was very similar to BVS in a lot of ways, but in ways that were unfair to BVS for comparison purposes. But I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. I really did. Like I walked away thinking that was a lot of fun, and didn't have really any regrets. There's always something.
Zemo, man, I was so bored. I was so bored by Zemo.
There was enough going on between Tony and Steve. That was fine, but I really kind of the Russos between Winter Soldier and that treated me so much better than Whedon did, making an Avengers film that knocked me. I mean, I was out of breath. And then Avengers 2, which was like, I mean, a rehash?
Yeah.
It was the same thing.
I mean, not really a it wasn't really.
It was very nearly the same, like some of the same major plot points. I can't get over the fact that it was mind control that was one of the major plot points in both films.
Yeah.
Can't get over that. I just can't. So yeah, like to me, the Russos treated us better than Whedon did, and that's it's hard to say almost. But I do really respect what the Russos have done in general, so I don't feel too bad about that.
I think if I were, and anyone who's seen my YouTube videos can just tell me to screw the hell right off, but because I suck. But I think if I were in Whedon's position and I was tasked with doing Age of Ultron, I would have almost changed the genre format. You know what I mean? Like. Sort of like they did with Winter Soldier when they turned it into like a political thriller. Yeah, like I maybe would have done Avengers Age of Ultron more in a line of like, well, probably I would have done Ultron first, just to be fair.
Yeah.
But whatever the second one was, I probably would have moved it less towards like Earth invasion and more towards like a mission, like the first Mission Impossible or something, Where you just have, like, everyone working together, but off on their separate, like, specialties,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just ridiculous. Don't listen to me. There's a reason I'm doing this podcast and not making movies.
So it occurs to me at this point we should probably talk about DC again.
Yeah.
By the way, I started to respond. I was like, why are we doing a Marvel podcast first? Hold on. We should probably go back to our primary source of material.
Whatever.
It's good to veer.
I don't think we've steered completely into it. We've only veered.
Yeah.
So apparently, all this time we've been calling it the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe. Apparently, that's not what it is.
I mean, fuck you. That's what you said to call it.
Well, in the same article, Abraham Reisman is saying, early on in my reporting, officials at WBDC told me no one uses the term DC Extended Universe internally, and that it's not official, and that they didn't know who came up with it. He says he eventually discovered, he found out that Keith Staskowitz, maybe? I don't know.
Good enough.
The writer came up with it. He says, it was my own phrasing when I used it in the story. Just seemed like the kind of thing they'd call it.
Wow. That does not seem like the thing anyone would call it. We specifically all adopted that terminology because we thought you wanted us to.
Yeah, so apparently DC actually never did, even though Charles Roven used it, according to the Suicide Squad cast. I don't remember what article they looked up, but, Scott said he found Charles Roven, I think it was, saying it. But, Chuck Roven, man, he seems sort of like the crazy uncle of the,
I could
cinematic universe.
I could see that.
Or he's just, like, drunkenly coming in. I don't know if he's drunk or not. I don't want to, cast aspersions on his character. But,
Yeah, he does kind of come out of nowhere sometimes with some of his press stuff.
Yeah,
I thought we were all on the same page with that, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird to me, but whatever.
I mean, I've
always hated the term.
Yeah, like we were all using the phrase DCU because that made sense. Yeah. And then they said extended, and then we all made fun of them, like, why would you call it like the DC Cinematic Universe, the DC Movie Universe, or like...
Yeah.
What, just extended? Like, that's all of everything. Like, that involves Arrow. Like, what are you doing?
The DC DBU. DC douchebag universe.
Right.
Just
Anything.
all of our heroes are sad and gloomy.
To be fair, that's annoying.
That's the portrait
news.
painted.
Yeah, seriously.
You know. We don't understand a montage full of bright, hopeful things. They're all douchebags.
Yeah. Well, probably the DC emo universe to begin with,
Oh, that's good.
and then
Is emo still a thing?
oh yeah, that's
I'm old. I don't know.
no. I just think that's a word that's going to be around now forever. You know,
You think?
insofar as forevers go, like until it gets replaced by something else. I don't know what it'd be replaced
Anyway.
by, but that's a problem for another day. Hey, like
I don't know, man.
in any case, if their plan is to rephrase that or reinitialism it, good for them. I'm in.
Yeah, whatever. I personally like DC Cinematic Universe, but I don't know.
DCM, DC movies.
Whatever. DCF, DC Films.
I would say UDC, but they tried something like that with after Convergence, and that didn't go well.
DCD. DC Damn!
Yeah.
You just started referring to the TV universe as the DCA. DC, alright.
Depends on the week.
Yeah, it depends on the week. Well, we were labeling those based on budget. Oh, okay. No, but yeah, I guess they don't have an official name for it, except for DC Films, really.
Yeah. That's fine. DCF is
so-
fine. That actually rolls
Yeah.
off the tongue way better than DCEU. Like, it hurts my mouth to say DCEU. It's fucking...
Yeah.
DCF.
I mean,
Woo.
So MTV was interviewing Armie Hammer. Josh Horowitz showed him some fan art of Hammer as Green Lantern, and he said, and then he shows him some fan art of him as Shazam, and he says, "Oh yeah, oh no, I don't want to see that. I feel like there's something Freddie Mercury would wear. I think that whoever did that did a very fantastic job with it." And then they asked if he would be interested in playing Green Lantern, and he says, "Josh, I'm a complete whore. I will work with anybody for anything. Like, if you have a job for me, I'll take it."
Love it. That is some honest stuff
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, man, that
Also,
explains.
that's a good call about
Lone-
was it the Captain Marvel outfit
Lone
that he was
Ranger.
saying about the Freddie Mercury thing?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I could totally see Freddie Mercury wearing that outfit. Hell yeah!
yeah.
And like if I'd gone to that concert, I'd have looked up and gone, "Oh no way, he walked out in a Shazam out. This is fantastic."
Yeah, it's not Captain Marvel anymore. You can't say that anymore.
Nah, I still do it when I feel like it.
I know. I prefer that name. I think I like the irony of someone at DC, a big character from DC, being called Captain Marvel. It cracks me up.
Yeah, I think that's how it worked back in the day too.
Well, he pre-exists Marvel.
Yeah,
so.
he was there before, and then he was off, and he was off the books literally for a second. But I think it still cracked people up back in the day.
I really hope they find some like old transcripts of stuff where it turns out that he was actually called Captain Timely. Anyway.
Captain, still young for his age.
Well, no, I was thinking because Marvel used to be called Timely.
Sure. Yep.
Anyway.
I feel like there's a faucet of puns you could turn on.
Yes. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
So, Regal Cinemas earlier this week hosted an event where Geoff Johns appeared, and he says that Flash is the collective favorite coming out of Justice League. He also showed a trailer, by the way, which means that the trailer, we're probably going to get a trailer next week, final trailer for Justice League, and it'll probably be, I would guess, with Blade Runner 2049, which comes out October 6th.
That's fair. And, I mean, all right, let's see. This week, we get Lucifer back, but next week we got a bunch of CW shows coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably either that or they'll throw it on, like, episode 3 or 4 of Gotham.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure they'll do that, but also
4, I guess.
New York Comic-Con is happening
This weekend? Yeah.
next week. Yeah. So that'd probably be a good place to do it.
Wouldn't hurt.
So I'm going to be careful about what I say here. I spoiled Jason on it, but Danny Elfman was talking about some stuff, and they asked, this was like with Billboard, and they asked, you've just been in London recording the score for Justice League. It's been 28 years since you scored Batman. What was it like going back into the DC Universe? Elfman says, it was great. It was like I never left because I'm using the same thematic material that I used back then. It never actually went away. It just was great fun. There are a few little fan moments. I instated a moment of the Wonder Woman theme that Hans Zimmer did for BVS, but I also had 2 minutes where I had the pleasure of saying, let's do John Williams' Superman, and that for me was heaven, because now I have a melody to twist, and I'm using it in an actually very dark way, in a dark moment. It's the kind of thing that some fans will notice, some fans won't. He also said a line after that, and I feel like it's a little too spoilery to talk about, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But then he says, the people of DC are starting to understand we've got these iconic bits from our past, and that's part of us. That's part of our heritage. We shouldn't run away from that. Contemporary thinking is every time they reboot something, you have to start completely from scratch, which, of course, audiences will tell us again and again is bullshit, because the single most surviving and loved theme in the world is Star Wars, which they had the good sense to not dump for the reboots, and every time it comes back, the audience goes crazy. Now, I agree with him.
He's got some good points there.
I feel like at this point, the 89 Batman theme, which was done by Elfman himself, and the John Williams Superman score they're just those characters in those characters' DNA.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I'm not saying that I don't want to do.
What's the audio version of iconic? Like,
I think it's still iconic.
yeah, but icon indicates visual. I don't know. Whatever the audio version of iconic is.
When you say audio version of iconic, the first thing that pops into mind is John Williams.
So it's a snake eating its tail. It's fine.
Yeah. But honestly, man, I mean, he defined that. Like,
no, I mean,
it's funny. Some people have actually had a real problem with this. I saw it was pretty funny. Someone said, "Hey, we changed BVS John Williams score when Superman's flying," and then when you watch it, it's like the scene where Batman grabs him with the grappling and like swings him around, and he's like smashing him into walls and stuff, and it's like dun 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 as Superman is helplessly being thrown into walls.
Yeah,
it was funny, but I'm excited for this. I really am. I think I don't want the whole score to be that. Like, I eschew the Superman Returns mentality, where you just have to just draw so much from the previous films that it doesn't even feel like its own thing.
Yeah.
But
feels like
I feel like
mock-up.
I feel like there should be a couple of callbacks at the right time, and hopefully that's what they're doing here.
And I think the music's a nice way to go with that. We're like, they actually got a lot of shit for the visuals, where they pulled up previous visuals. I mean, as much as I, giggled and thought, oh, that's the shot from Dark Knight Returns, when he's emaciated in space or something. Same time, as many people like me went, oh, cool. There was a whole other group of people that went, no, on the nose, don't appreciate it. That's not what was happening. Yeah. Visually, you will. I think visually you'll catch a lot of people off guard and make them polarize them the wrong way, the way you weren't going for, at least. Whereas with music, I think a lot of times it's more innocuous. Like, a lot of people won't notice. Most people won't read this article; they won't even notice. There is iconic as the Batman theme is, and that Superman score is. You just a lot of people aren't even going to freaking notice they brought it up again. Like, some part of them might. There might be a subconscious that goes, "Oh, that feels familiar," but that's it. So you aren't risking as much, I think, with an audio cue as you are a visual. I think when you do it with an audio cue, that's a good way of speaking to the fans who are going to notice it and go like, "Oh my God, that's awesome!" Just like in Smallville, when he goes to see Christopher Reeve, who's a scientist in this version, and but they still kind of do the John Williams theme. That just made me happy as hell. I didn't feel like it was the same universe or anything, but it made me happy as hell. Yeah. Well, even in BTAS, Shirley Walker constantly refers to the Elfman theme, but doesn't do it.
That was by mandate.
I know. I mean, that's part of the contract. I'm sure. But she gets you there. Like, if it wasn't actually the thing that opened that series, if the first 45 seconds of that show didn't exist, I mean, you would still be talking about, oh, dude, Shirley Walker brought that up all the time. Because we're listening for it. We know that, and we want to hear it,
Yeah. It's just, I think the mainstream audience, even though they don't notice it, they do subconsciously. I think the John Williams Superman theme and the '89 Batman theme from Elfman is part of the zeitgeist, man. It's there on a subconscious level. So I feel like when they see that, as critics or audience members, when they hear it, I think they're going to feel like, oh, that's the character, more than anything else when they hear that music, because music has that way of speaking to your soul and your inner being and electrifying you and bringing you upright. Like if I listen to a good Star Trek soundtrack, I am way more productive that week. Because I feel like I'm in Starfleet and I got shit to do, man.
Yeah.
I'm like Spock.
Things are happening.
So I think it's important. Anyway,
It does. It seeps into you a little bit. And something that I was equally frightened by what you told me earlier this week. The way I put it to you was this: that Superman theme. Just, I can't help it. It's on some visceral, like, pre-3-year-old. I don't know what part of me this is, but there's a part of me that, like, when I hear that theme, chokes up. Like, oh, I could be a better person. I should be a better person. Like, there's a part of me that just is. It's in me. And in this case, if they played a different version of it, if they made it a little darker, this is maybe the first time where I've balked and thought, oh man, come on, don't mess this up. Because I've been on board with a lot of the changes and a lot of the variations so far. But this was maybe the first time where I had that knee-jerk reaction of like, oh, no, don't mess with that. Don't mess with that.
Yeah.
And I understand where I'm coming from, because for some reason, it really is. Like, if you show me those notes, if you just played that in the background, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I might, like, drop my head and kind of start pinching my neck a little bit. So, yeah. It's just built in. But at the same time, like, I can really appreciate when someone does something magical with it, and Danny Elfman may be able to. Like, all right, so the example I gave you was, and I'm going to lose some people with even enjoying A Perfect Circle, but I was born in a certain period, so deal with it. John Lennon's Imagine, iconic song, right? Again, we're back to what is that word for audio, but it's a freaking trademark. Like,
right.
This is one of those, like, Mount Rushmore songs. And it's so hopeful and wonderful. But Perfect Circle did a version where basically they just kind of minor keyed it, dropped it down a little bit. I forget what it's in, like G minor or something. I don't remember. But they tweaked it, and the way he does it in that song, it's he's dragging a couple of the notes vocally. It's not hopeful. The songs there, the notes are there, the relative notes are there. It sounds vastly different. It sounds like someone who's lost hope, who like knew what hope was once and is reminiscing about it. And it's kind of gorgeous in its own way. So I would hope something as artistic and kind of, different and meaningful comes out of what Elfman does. But I don't know. He's brought us so much before. I don't see why I can't count on him for this.
That take of Imagine, though, is also sort of makes me think of, the idea that, like, what if you get to utopia and it's not what you hoped? Like, what are we living for?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the most depressing thing of all? Is to have nothing but peace and no real ideals to strive for. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's a very like almost sarcastic sounding take on Imagine. It's it's neat. So I can hope for something like that, and that kind of I don't know. It mitigates my fear, my little knee-jerk reaction of, oh, don't mess up that theme. I love that theme.
Yeah, I think I'm done, man. I'm just okay with just twist whatever, man. I don't care anymore. Just do it. Just give me a good story. I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah. Look, I'll live.
I'll live.
I'm one of those people that thinks that, like, all right. So there's a difference between like how people view the Constitution, whether it's a living document or not. So with our DC products, you and I have very much been in the camp that it is a living document. Like, so these different interpretations, for us, it's supposed to keep the spirit of it, but the letter is not necessarily there.
Right.
So if you recast somebody or whatever, it's not the end of the damn world.
Right.
As long as you keep the essence of what was there. So I just had to face myself personally, because this was the first time that I felt like I wasn't, I guess, that wasn't... my first reaction was fear this time. Instead of like, oh, that sounds cool. This was the first time where I went, oh, no. Please don't. Please don't.
And me, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did go on. They asked, did you write new themes for characters like Flash and Aquaman? And Elfman says, I created very simple motifs. There are so many themes, you can't just do a big theme for everything. So I created a motif for Flash, for Aquaman, and Cyborg. But they're very simple things, and DC understood. I said, these things may never be used again, but I'm giving you all the components, should you wish to have things to build on. So they either will or they won't. But that's how I approach a project like this. You have to take the attitude that this is the beginning of a mythology, and it all matters. It all comes to fruition, and with any luck they will. I love the people I worked with. They were wonderful. The DC guys were great. I kept talking about the DNA of John Williams in this other theme, using the DNA of Batman and these other variations, which were not the Batman theme, but it all derives from that. Musical themes are like genes. You carry the DNA along and it creates these subtle connections which are perceived on an unconscious level. It's funny because I'm terrible at puzzles, but I love musical puzzles. It's a different part of my brain.
That's
deadly
accurate.
Yeah. They asked, did you record at Abbey Road? He says, Abbey Road and Air. Oh my God, we had 9 days of 12-hour recording sessions using both studios. It was crazy. It's funny. I've only worked with Joss Whedon twice, but they've both been insane situations. I was joking with him at the end. It would be great to do something normal, where we actually had a regular schedule instead of these hyper-reduced schedules. On the other hand, I like challenges, and I love Joss, so it was all good. Which is interesting, because it makes me, feel like pretty much when they announced that he was going to be on Justice League is when he started.
Yeah. It was almost like the news broke from the flight attendant who tore his ticket, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. Also, though, there's an ongoing supposition that the less time and resources Whedon has, the better he does. I don't know, maybe Elfman's like him, or maybe they have a good relationship that way. Like, it seems like the more you hamstring him, the better the product is somehow.
Maybe.
Like, you've got 13 episodes. I mean 10. I mean 4.
They asked, why do you love working with Joss? He says, it was the same when I worked with him on Ultron. He appreciates melodies and pieces. He's like, oh, you've given it identity here. There was a moment where the Batmobile shoots out of a thing and he goes, go batshit crazy here. Batman the shit out of it. When I'm using the Batman theme, I'm using the melodic sense of it. I wasn't doing full on Batman, and there's a moment when he says, no, right here, full on.
So,
and they ask,
because you know what we're waiting on at that point is
absolutely. Yeah. That's all I need right there, where you stopped it.
Moment. Those notes, that's it.
And they asked, are his musical instincts right? And he says, Elfman says, I think they're great, and he loves doing little things like that are pure fan excitement. Do John Williams here? Batman the shit out of this moment. He knows how fans think. Give them these little things and let them enjoy it. I can't agree more.
Yep.
Now, over to Empire. They have released a magazine. It's a Justice League special. And here's some interesting tidbits from that. Gal Gadot reaffirmed that this is Zack Snyder's movie, Justice League. She says, this is Zack Snyder's movie. Joss only did a few weeks of reshoots. He was Zack's guy and knew exactly what he wanted to get. Ben Affleck said, Joss is more than just an Avengers director. He's a good storyteller, full stop. In midstream, Joss got on, and part of what interested him was the puzzle aspect of it, fitting in pieces that weren't there yet. He put the rest of the pieces in and gave it his own imprimatur. Imprimatur? I'll say that a few more times. Joss
that
came
does
in
sound
and
like
walked
a guy who's directed a movie talking about it, a director, though.
Yeah. Joss came in and walked a very fine line between Zack's sensibility, tone, and direction. We found a really fun and inspiring synthesis of their two forms of storytelling. I was so glad everyone showed up to work for Zack. So, there are already people out there saying this is just spin. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Clearly there was an issue with Zack Snyder's initial cut, or they wouldn't have wanted all this new stuff being written by somebody else. And look, I can't fault anybody for wanting Joss to come in and punch up some dialogue, man, and throw in some good scenes. Like, For God's sake, they had Joss pop in over on Dark World, Thor the Dark World. They just had him, they helicoptered his ass in to write additional scenes to make that movie work.
That is true.
I have no hate for that. Joss's his career before being, he was a script doctor.
Yeah.
Like, the reason Twister was a good movie is because of Joss Whedon. His name isn't there, but he was the reason. Toy Story. You like Toy Story, right? All you people out there in podcast land, you like Toy Story. Thank Joss.
He's
Anyway.
I think he's up there with like Patton Oswalt almost as like punch-up artist extraordinaire to a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah. So, whatever.
Patton's one of those
You know.
people who's like, well, it's not funny enough. Well, you please send it to Patton. We need him to funny this up.
We need someone who understands tone and won't like betray that tone. But we also need funny. That sounds like Joss Whedon or Patton Oswalt. Which one do you want? Yeah.
That could be a tough call in certain way. I think your determining factor there is like, well, Joss has a career in which he's trained himself to limit his nerddom, and Patton would be like letting a rabid dog off the leash. So
Yeah.
let's let Joss do. Like, we've all seen that Parks and Rec filibuster.
And if you haven't, you should go check it out and type in just that.
Fucking amazing.
Parks and Rec
Oh my
filibuster.
god.
I
I didn't know man was capable of such an act until I saw it.
You should just go on and go to YouTube and look up Patton Oswalt Unbreakable Sequels Screen Junkies. He just sits there and pitches a whole Unbreakables trilogy.
And I'm sure it's,
Anyway.
I'm sure it's workable. I'm sure it is.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, let me put it this way. I have a hard time, because Shyamalan is talking about doing, actual sequels now. And, I'm having a hard time not being like, well, it's not going to be Patton's.
You just stoked Patton before he does that. Some
Yeah.
good ideas out there.
So,
Give him a story by.
this is a bit that's in Empire, and I feel like we've talked about this before. Chris Terrio talked about this before last year, before BVS ever came out. But Ezra Miller is confirming it. Thought I'd bring it up again, since apparently every day on Facebook someone else is not understanding this. So apparently Justice League was always supposed to be lighter than Batman v Superman. No kidding.
That is
Zack Snyder says...
at least a 2-year-old story at this point.
Yeah, Zack Snyder had apparently talked with Ezra Miller.
Granted, it wasn't like... It was a side note. A couple of years ago, it was just like, oh yeah, we're going to lighten up a little bit. And no one thought anything of it. And then everything happened, and that was lost.
Yeah. So Ezra Miller says, the first time I ever sat in Zack's office, he told me people were mad at him for making things too dark. Zack always intended for the Justice League to rise out of the darkness and maybe even bring Batman with them. Maybe an inch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's kind of the beautiful part of their relationship in general, right?
Yeah.
Bruce, have faith.
A little bit.
Clark, makes sense.
So we can now do Justice League hashtags on Twitter, and they will bring up these little emojis of the characters. Mm-hmm. Except for Superman's, who will bring up a little red and black logo version of his logo. Mm-hmm. They released these character portrait posters. Wonder Woman, it's basically just blank backgrounds, but they're colored. The whole thing has a photo filter on it with a different color. Wonder Woman is yellows, Flash is red, Cyborg is purple, Batman blue, Aquaman green. And they're what do you call it? What do you call it when it's the little side portrait of a person's face, where it's just the person's face. Just you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Profile.
Profile, yeah. It's a profile shots of all the characters. I hate these posters. They're awful. I think they're ugly. It's some sort of hackneyed Andy Warhol shit. I'm just not down with it. If you dig it, I'm sorry. And I fully support you going out and buying this merch, because that's what's going to get us more of these movies.
Sure.
But you know what? It's not going on my wall, buddy. I'm not down for it.
It's usually the kind of shot where a casting director will see someone's headshot of a profile and go, oh no, not you.
Yeah. So over to Shazam. Apparently, some site called Omega Underground uncovered an audition tape, and it shows Brendan Hurd of Odd Squad and Orphan Black auditioning for the role of, quote, Frank, who is a disabled foster kid with a sarcastic sense of humor. Now, this is probably going to be Freddie Freeman, Shazam Jr. in the comics, who was, quote, severely injured due to a fight with a fight between Shazam and Captain Nazi, causing Billy to transfer some of his powers to the young boy.
Also, the version you slipped up and said
Shazam
sounds
Jr.
so much cooler.
Yeah.
After a fight between a 10-year-old boy and a man inhabiting 6 gods, the crippled child...
So anyway, apparently the dialogue would suggest that he's already disabled in the movie, and he's introducing Billy into the foster home, and it also denotes that he is aware of Billy's powers, maybe even jealous of them. And there's some interesting stuff about like how they actually tie into Justice League as far as Freddy owning a lot of superhero paraphernalia. Batman's Batarang. He's got an Ark of the Covenant filled with Superman merchandise and stuff, which could be cool. Who knows? That might be all track with the movie. It might not be. It might just be like sampling for the auditioning process. But yeah, that's where we are on that.
Sure.
Which I'm cool with. Whatever. I'm not the biggest Shazam fan. I'm kind of down for whatever they have to do.
He's growing on me, but
the big red cheese has never been quite my forte, but
I understand.
Tell you what is Nightwing, and Chris McKay is saying that no one's been cast yet. He says we're taking our time. We're going to cast a wide net because we need to find the perfect person. We need to get the script right. We need to get this movie to blow your mind. I'm down with that. I don't, everyone on the internet has been talking about different people who, he's been cast, and Chris McKay is saying, no, he's not.
Yeah.
But I want them to get it right. I would rather them get it right. Yeah. But then,
this won't be one of those things you kind of hear about when it happens. This is going to be a thing that you'll know when it's been cast.
Yeah. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have guessed Nightwing was on the table for a movie. I would have thought that was ridiculous. And,
yeah, it's crazy times.
Crazy times. Some might say the end times, but I think it's somewhere in Revelation, isn't it?
I think there's
Nightwing will get a movie.
Yeah, probably.
It's like you won't know, like this. You won't be able to tell the seasons from each other. The sky will turn to blood. Nightwing will get a movie.
Yeah, and then verse 4 also Gotham City Sirens. If you hear that mentioned,
yeah.
Crazy times, man.
So Justin Kroll of Variety is he's a pretty reliable source, saying for those wondering, this Artemis news pretty much takes Lord and Miller out of the running for Flash being the directors. He says that script was turned in yesterday to the studio. Flashpoint was. He says Bob Zemeckis is still being considered, but studio will take meetings with other filmmakers and no rush to make an announcement. Which is fine with me. They don't need to make an announcement on Flashpoint for quite a while, honestly.
That's funny though. Wasn't that a film that was like originally kind of slated for like late 2018, early 19?
Yeah. Well, before when it was just The Flash, and now it's kind of Flashpoint, and it's 2020, and
yeah. I mean, when it was just, we're going to do a Flash film. We're going to do it in like 18, 19.
I just don't care yet. Like,
I mean, I cared because I was happy they were going to do a Flash film. And then...
Yeah, no, you don't understand. I cared then, and now I've been jerked around so much, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's what I was working towards too. Now, at this point, I just, again, until there are people on set and $500,000 being spent per day, I'm not going to believe it.
I mean, if tomorrow they come out and announce that Flashpoint is going to have Bob Zemeckis of Back to the Future as a director, tomorrow, if they say that tomorrow, I'm changing my shorts. But until then, I don't give a shit. I don't believe anything. Here's something weird, though. Kiersey Clemmons was talking about her new film, Flatliners, to ET Online. She said...
Is she of Not Here Anymore fame?
Yeah, I don't know. She says she was unsure about time period. She says, because of going back and forth, past and future with The Flash, you don't even know what time period you actually meet Iris. I don't know what to make of that.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw that quote out there. What do you guys think? Let us know. Over to Suicide Squad. This is fun.
I mean, okay, I've got nothing. I don't know.
Yeah. Over to Suicide Squad. Jared Leto was talking. He apparently has never seen Suicide Squad, and people are making a big deal out of this. Like, oh man, he was so ashamed of the movie, he never saw it. But,
No, this
hold
is
on.
actually really popular for actors and actresses not to actually watch their own films.
Hold on, yeah. I mean, Jared says as soon as you watch it, that's when it becomes subjective. He says he's never seen Dallas Buyers Club. He says, I think when you watch your own films, it can be too self-conscious of a process. You either like what you did, and you're prone to repeat it, or you didn't like it, and it can make you self-conscious. I'm not sure how much win there is for me, but I read the scripts, so I know what's going to happen.
In all fairness, like, if your job is to be an actor, you don't. It doesn't matter what you think about the final product. It matters what the director thought about you, how the writer felt about how you were portrayed, how the studio felt about how you worked with them. None of that matter. Like that's what makes your job work. Like not your feelings on the final product. That's irrelevant.
Yeah. Now he was on on EW Radio Spotlight. And again, pimping out Blade Runner 2049. He says that as far as like all the stuff that he did, sending used condoms and stuff to castmates, he says most of it was total bullshit. Like that I was giving used condoms to people, which was not true. It doesn't matter how loud you shout or hold up a sign with your pants off in Times Square. People will run the story that they want. Of course, I watched an interview he did with E! When Suicide Squad came out. Mm-hmm. There were no cuts, and he said that he absolutely he was the one who brought up used condoms. Mm-hmm. And he said he sent it to people. And then they talked to all these other people, all these like Will Smith and dude that played Killer Croc. I can't remember his name, and I can't even pronounce it right now. But you know what?
Even if we could remember it.
He said that bastard sent him used condoms and sticky Playboys.
I seem to remember Robbie saying the same.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was weird.
Will Smith said he sent him used condoms.
Yeah.
Anyway, then Leto said in the same radio interview, said he, as they put it, passed off the accountability onto others. He says people were thrilled to get them. Whatever the Joker would give was the idea. I didn't really even put them together, basically. It was my team and my assistant. We were all having fun with it. It was really touching. No, it wasn't touching. Because a bunch of these assholes sent them stuff that you knew about that you claim now that you didn't know about. Jared Leto, you're a crazy piece of shit, dude. You just are. Like, I've had it with you.
I'm not at all there yet. I think he's way more sane than he lets on. Oh wait, there's a wonderful. I think it's a Neil Cassidy quote writing the Jack Kerouac where he says, "I have much more sense than anything I do indicates." I really love that sentiment, but
that's a nice pipe dream. But I'm pretty sure Leto's just nuts.
I don't think he's actually nuts. I think he's a little more calculated than we're giving credit here. Also, like, I mean, I kind of get pulling back the story. Yeah, it didn't go so well. Like, it went really well when they were ramping up, and then after all that, everyone kind of went, hey, wait a second, isn't that kind of borderline sexual assault to send your sperm to people? Yeah. But now what's funny is, like, now I have the image of some poor assistant
jacking off into condoms.
Instead, executing this action.
I don't know what's worse. The idea of like some poor assistant jacking off into condoms and sending them
on their way.
Or like, I don't know, receiving used condoms from Jared Leto.
Yeah, which one's worse? Hey, mail this. Or hey, good news, bad news.
My favorite version.
Good news, you can use my trailer. Bad news.
I think my favorite version is like two assistants standing there like flipping a coin as to who has to jerk off into the condoms.
Oh man!
Like
if it was me in that room, I would immediately say like one of us does it, the other one ships it. We're flipping a coin.
Yeah.
One of those tasks is definitely worse than the other.
Well, why can't he just do it? Well, he can't do it because if someone actually files a complaint and they test the DNA, it can't be his. Like, he has to have plausible deniability. Like, no, it wasn't even mine. I don't know. I never heard of it. That's weird. I'm gonna go buy a green smock. Do 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 do.
That wasn't me.
Anyway.
I'm touring. I'm singing now. Clearly, I didn't do that.
Right. Anyway,
It's going to be like some W version of the Star Report.
that's. If only there had been Monica Lewinsky's and Linda Tripp's of the Suicide Squad.
I don't think anyone there has the time to write like 2,000 pages on really anything.
Yeah. Margot Robbie's like, you won't believe what he did with the cigar.
Yeah.
Anywho, we're going to move over to television. If you're not following us over on television, then you can find us on Twitter, DC On Screen. You can like us on Facebook, and you can call us and leave us a voicemail, 205-259-6331. That is 205-259-6331. And we'll love to hear from you. And moving right over to DC TV news. Bad news for Gotham fans, kind of, I think. It got its lowest ratings ever last week. The Fear Reaper aired to just 2.8 million viewers.
Ooh.
0.8 rating in the coveted 18 to 49 demo, comicbook.com reports.
They usually get it. I mean, their previous low was like 3.1 and 0.9.
Yeah, and the premiere was 3.2 million.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And, they were talking about canceling it last year. Now, here's the thing. Here's the upside to it. Apparently, their +7 numbers are really high. Their DVR settings are pretty high.
Cord cutter numbers?
And, yeah. And the other thing, though...
Also, they did change time slots, and that really does matter. A lot.
Yeah, the time slot change does matter. But even more than that, they're in the 4th season. There's no way they're going to make it to 100 episodes this season. But if they get renewed for a 5th season, they will make it to 100. And, it's not always 100%, but especially on franchise material like this.
Yeah.
They try to make things hit to 100 episodes so they can ship it out to syndication.
Sure.
And the standard syndication benchmark is 100 episodes. They won't hit it until season 5, but they can make that with a truncated season 5.
Right.
They'll be able to make that with 12 episodes, literally 12 episodes of season 5.
Because they'll be at 88-ish by the end of season 4.
Absolutely. So maybe they see the writing on the wall. Maybe that's why they seem to be speeding the Bruce becoming Batman story along.
Possibly. I'd be surprised if this doesn't pick up a little bit, especially in the +7 doesn't necessarily cover like people going back. I mean, it's +7. It doesn't cover people going back and finding a few weeks.
Yeah.
So 2 things occur to me. One, Gotham starts about 2 weeks earlier than your average season. I mean, last week, and we're recording this on like October 2nd. So last week, end of September, is when a lot of shows premiere. That's the bulk.
Yeah.
You're going to get the second half of the bulk in the first week of October. So Gotham, though, shows up in like the 3/4 mark of September. It's a little rare.
Yeah.
And they're going to do that on a different day, different time slot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's uphill. So give them a little bit of credit. Maybe give them the 0.1. Don't know about that.
Yeah.
Maybe give them another 500K. Honestly, another 500,000. That's not unreasonable for changing where you're airing.
Yeah. Now,
it may not be as bad as it seems.
Did you see the last episode? Did you watch it?
Haven't yet. No.
Not yet. Well, I'll tell you this much though. There's a bit where they ask someone asks Barbara how she's not dead, and her reaction is quite literally, "This is Gotham." They've got to stop that shit, man.
They've really got to stop. That was, I said this on the premiere review we did. Was like I was hoping that was a cute nod to the Gotham of old. Where like, yep, I don't know, people just come back. Fuck, I don't know what's going on.
No.
I thought that was gonna. I hoped that was gonna be a cute nod, and instead, what we may get is more of a, if that's the case, more of a, I don't know. People just come back. What are you gonna do? Like,
Now, here's the worst
are we
part,
doing
though.
like a? It's like a Robot Chicken episode at that point.
Yeah. Here's the worst part, though. They in the actual episode, they had her trying to win the trust of people, but then saying, like, this is Gotham. Next time, check a pulse. Which
God,
is the
come
shittiest, laziest lantern hanging ever. But then, you have Gotham EP John Stevens come out and says, okay, well, we know how, here's how Barbara came back. And I'll tell you right now. He says again this year, it'll be a different version of Barbara. Once again, it's like he keeps reiterating that because no one likes Barbara. It's a different version, I promise, that will be informed by her return to the world of the living at the hands of Ra's al Ghul. That's kind of obvious, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Says,
a lot of people like
elements.
Barbara. I don't know what to do with it, but we've talked about it before.
I don't know.
We seem to be the outliers here.
I don't ever see anybody who likes Barbara online. I really don't. Like, I see eye rolls and people annoyed that she's still around.
I see a lot of that in the comment section, but in the, I don't know, maybe it's just the narrative of how people are covering it for some reason, but she
anyway,
seems to go over well. I don't know.
John Stevens says there will be elements of that connection to Ra's al Ghul that will inform her personality going forward in her arc. Apparently, Bruce is not going to be aware of the resurrection of full tilt. He's not going to be full tilt aware of it for a while. So
Sure.
that's fine. Whatever. She was back, so I kind of expected some sort of chicanery.
Yeah.
But it's not. I feel like it's not good form to hang a shitty lantern in your episode and then, like, a couple of days later just be like, okay, Ra's al Ghul did it, to the press. Like, why don't you let your show speak for itself, you jackass?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's my own personal viewpoint. Like, if you're actually making a show that's supposed to keep us intrigued and supposed to, keep us on the edge of our seats and wondering what the hell happened, how did this happen, maybe you don't do that. I'll say this. I'm watching Riverdale. I'm finally catching up. I'm like 7 episodes in. I'm on the edge of my seat. It's phenomenal.
Oh.
Yes, it's stupid and cheesy at parts, but it's amazing.
I know.
It's really good.
It's actually
well
good.
done.
I think I've said this before. Like,
Yeah.
Me and my wife were both injured when we were supposed to be, like, out of the country on a makeup honeymoon for our first terrible honeymoon.
Yeah.
Where everyone got injured and we couldn't freaking... So, long story short, we were supposed to be doing a redo. Instead, couldn't do that. So, I realized on about episode 8 of Riverdale that we had spent our entire honeymoon watching Riverdale.
Uh-huh.
We just woke up, were injured, looked at each other and thought, well, I'm sore. You want to lie down? Let's try this.
Which is... it becomes a let's try this, and then it quickly turns from that to a let's find an excuse to watch more Riverdale.
It wasn't even that. There was no question. We just kept hitting next. Or rather, instead of hitting next, we just clicked the little thumbnail and went to it. We
I'll be honest.
absolutely consumed that season in like one day, and then I kind of like it just really was a little more than halfway through it. We went, this is, I guess, what we're doing with our anniversary, our first anniversary. I'm okay with it.
Man, I was kind of sold the first episode. Like, I fell in love with the first episode when Kevin pops up and says, "I know you'll never guess who propositioned me in the bathroom. They call him Moose, but he's hung like a horse." I was totally sold.
It was surprisingly good. Aesthetically, one of the things I was most impressed with was Jughead's hat.
Yeah, they made it work, didn't they?
They made it work. Like it reminisces the comic, but it looks like a human might actually wear that shit.
Yeah. One thing I was sort of disappointed with at this point, and I don't know how, the last thing I saw, spoilers for Riverdale, literally the last thing I saw was Jughead kiss Betty. So, I was a little disappointed because in the old comics, like, Jughead had an active disdain for females, which I understand you can't really do now. But
for a comic that started in the late 40s, it makes sense.
Yeah, which was, it was fun because they basically made him an asexual character without saying it. And then in the new comics, they actually
Cooties.
said it.
Like, I just imagined Cooties every time I was thinking about him.
No, he just couldn't. He couldn't deal with them. Like, he just He just thought they were all ridiculous. Like, he just couldn't deal with them. He had no interest in the old comics. He would, the only person he ever liked was Betty, because she cooked. She became a good cook. Gotcha. And he asked her to marry him when they were like 14 years old or something. And then she burnt some brownies, and he called the marriage off.
That sounds. All right. So good modern example in this one.
But I like the modern idea of in the modern comics, the more dramatized comics, he's asexual, and I like that idea
they're doing
better
that in BoJack with
being
whoever that guy is. I'm sorry,
I haven't seen the new BoJack Horseman.
It's not new; it's old.
Okay.
BoJack's friend that lives with him.
Oh yeah, Todd.
Yeah, Todd. Thank you. Yeah, he's asexual. Like they brought that up at the end of that. I think it was third season.
Yeah, they did. You're right.
That he's asexual and.
God, I need to get to that.
That's how he rolls.
I need to get to that new season, but haven't yet. I was just feeling Riverdale, man. I was like, new season's about to start. Maybe I'll just give it a shot.
I didn't expect you to go back for Riverdale. I'm a little surprised.
I don't know. I had the option of Better Call Saul. I just wasn't feeling it, and I was like, maybe I'll give Riverdale a shot.
It hooks you though,
and I'm glad I did.
Like it hooks
really
you.
Good.
Like, somewhere like the 25% of the first episode, I was like, all right, what do you got? And
I hate every one of their parents except for Luke Perry.
Yeah, he's predictably cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Dylan just grew up and gave birth to Archie Andrews. It's really weird. It's like, shit, man.
Mm-hmm. There was some, this is going to sound weird.
This is what happens when you marry Rebecca Gayheart and she gets murdered by her own crazy father? All right, cool.
Right.
That's right. I remember 90210. Screw you.
I've got one worse. He reminded me a little bit of the John from Cincinnati.
What is that?
Oh, it was a bizarre show.
It sounds familiar as crap, man. I can't place it in my brain.
I can never remember if something's an HBO or Showtime, but it lasted about 0.0 seconds in TV land terms. But yeah, Luke Perry showed up there, and he had a very similar feel to me. And it was one of those that it incorporated what's his name, Mitch Yost, I want to say.
Huh.
Anyway,
I don't know.
One of the father figures on that ended up being one of the voices of Batman later, and that's how I kind of kept it vaguely in my memory.
Yeah. I just feel like Luke Perry is always Jacob Dylan's stunt double. Just willing to jump in there.
Just a second away. Yeah, Mitch Yost, the character Bruce Greenwood, played. Yeah.
Yeah. Bruce Greenwood, there's a good actor.
He is a good actor. Great voice actor, apparently.
Yeah. I wish they'd done more with his Captain Pike and Star Trek reboots. Anyway, moving on. It
was a good moment.
That was a divergent conversation.
Yeah.
Over to Supergirl. There is a new Supergirl trailer out. It's got the Hero's Journey trailer. We have a bit where Cat Grant says the thing that makes women strong is that they have the guts to be vulnerable. I know more guys who are like that than women, so I'm kind of weird about that. I'm kind of really sick of the generalities on television. But and I feel like Supergirl is one of the biggest offenders, but whatever. I'm not completely sold on this season. I'll watch it because I watch all the DC stuff. But and we have Wynn saying this is like the beginning of the dark days, which sounds cool at first, and I don't know what it means when I actually think about it. What is the dark days? What is that, Wynn?
I don't know. Like my my recap of that was like I don't have a problem with the generalization, but I do have a problem with the direction. Like,
yeah,
it's Supergirl. She's such a lighthearted person most of the time. And like the idea of all people, Wynn saying these are dark days, or like he's such a lighthearted person. Like don't get me wrong, I love seeing these characters flip over. Like the stuff with Wynn and his dad, fantastic. The stuff when Wynn got really serious with the relationship with Kara, fantastic. Like Wynn is actually one of the Jeremy Jordan. Is that his name? Is that right? So yeah. He's one of those guys that, like, when they pop him over and tell him to do something serious, especially like him and Jimmy Olsen last year about like, no, you're not my boss. This is not how that works. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man, that guy can act.
But I'm just saying that line doesn't make any sense.
The line doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make sense for him to say, because he's
doesn't.
one of the characters he's so lighthearted and fun, and I love when he goes dark, and he does a great job with it. But maybe we don't build our season around him just going, oh crap, everything's bad now, because that's kind of how he pitched it.
Yeah. You know what? I think I've realized something about myself just just sitting here thinking about this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Supergirl is really generalized. Like they throw in a lot of heavy-handed feminism. And, you can say that it kind of denotes that it's diminishing men, by implying that they're not. You could say it's not. Here's the thing. Here's my main problem, I think. I don't believe it either with men or women. Like when you're like, you're strong, and if you're strong, you can defeat this thing. There's no guarantee of that. I think that's why I like Rick and Morty so much. It's existential. It's real. I'm like, no, Cat Grant, she can't fight this because she's a woman. She may not be able to fight this, period. She might die.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm getting tired of the pep talks from the peanut gallery on these shows. We're like, oh, all the supporting characters. I get it. Supporting character. You're supposed to support the lead. That's fine. You're the strongest person I know. You have Kyler Lee here, and I usually love Kyler Lee's acting, but this is awful. Where she says, Cara Danvers is my favorite person.
Yeah, that came across
She saved
weird.
me more times than Supergirl ever could.
That came across
That was
strange.
bad. That was overacting out the wazoo. I am super worried about this season of Supergirl. No pun intended, honestly.
Yeah, I'm really hoping
Whatever.
that scene makes a little more sense. And in the context of this trailer, it was a little overplayed. So I'm really hoping that when that scene comes around, it's gonna make sense. I was way more worried about just the overall. It's not gonna be the tone of the season. This isn't where we're going for the season. Even if someone says that, they're lying. That's not where it's gonna go. It's just not.
It'll be the tone for the first 7 episodes.
7 or 8 episodes. That's it.
Yeah.
And then after that, they're going to be working. All right, it's 1st of October now. Yeah, they're working on wrapping up the season, but they're not the mid-season finale, for instance, is not in stone.
Yeah.
And they're going to leave themselves a little bit of leeway, but it's certainly not going to tell you what's going to happen from I don't know, probably mid-March.
Yeah.
Early March, if you're lucky. Next year is probably a good 12, 14 episodes worth of. It could be recovery, or it could be expanding upon what they're going to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever happened in this trailer, it's not necessarily what's going to happen for the rest of the season. In fact, it almost has to not be. So, this whole hero's journey thing, that Cat Grant speech is probably going to happen in the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
If not
probably.
the first. And the thing with Kyler Lee and I forget her name. But with Alex and Maggie, the whole bit with that, them standing there, the whole thing with Alex talking to her, it's probably going to be knocked out pretty quickly. And then we'll get to actually see what they're dealing with this season. So I'm kind of leaning on that, I suppose, is where I'm going with this. I don't want to do the hero's journey. I know this is supposed to all be a reaction from her sending Mon-El away.
Yeah.
I know that's where it's going, but I don't want to watch her just be. Oh man, she was so much fun. She was so inspiring for a couple of seasons. Watching her grow and build her team and have faith in her team.
Oh,
I don't want to watch someone who's.
That's not.
I mean,
That's not true. You and I both complained all last season about what a horrible, spoiled little witch she had become.
Oh, no. That's, again, to the point. The second half of the season. First half of the season, she was still bending. She was still bending and mending her team. So, she had a team for 1.5 seasons that she was working on. We're talking about a pilot episode where, one of the first things she does is take one of her cozy office mates and take him to the roof and fly in front of him. She's been building this team, and then you're right. Second half of last season, kind of went the other way, but they did come back, especially after the Guardian Win combination she kind of got a little more on board with that. Like, I know there was a lot going on, but it's still been like Supergirl building her little National City universe. And then to get to this point where it's like, no, fuck all of you. I experienced a loss. And none of you matter anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't
Well,
want to do that at all.
I don't think they were doing like none of you matter anymore. I think it's just like Kara Danvers is dead. I'm Supergirl. Like she's trying to pull a Batman for a second. Is what it looks like.
That I mean, kind of yeah. And one of the major reasons that I kind of much as I love Batman, I like the S just 1% more, and it's because to have that on your chest, you have to have faith in everybody else. And like this season, I want to see him play with the concept. I do, but it always like pains me to see anyone with that emblem on their chest not trust other people. You know, that being said, I understand I understand the storytelling. So let's do it. Let's do it well.
Yeah, I like Batman like 50% more than Superman. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have nearly as much give a shit about how they treat Superman or Supergirl in the storytelling elements. I really don't.
Like I'm
cool for seeing
if it was literally like Shadow versus Sarah, I would have kept Superman alive.
I don't know what you're saying here.
The Arrow scene.
I know what the Arrow scene is.
Oh yeah. No,
how does that relate to Superman?
Just by a very small margin, I would have. If it was like Batman v Superman, I would have been like, yeah, Superman. Keep Superman alive.
No, man. No.
Very small margin.
Nah. I can't go with you on that journey.
I understand.
Batman every time. Batman every time.
I understand.
But you know, I like the idea of Superman being that symbol of hope, and Supergirl as well. It's one of the reasons Brave New Metropolis is such a great episode of the Superman animated series to me. Mm-hmm. So I like when I like to see him a little dirtied, and I like to see what makes him flip. Of course, most writers don't have much more imagination than just making it Lois getting killed. Like apparently, if Lois gets killed at any point, like Superman just goes like batshit crazy, and like just takes over the entire damn world. And as opposed, well, I guess if the Flash gets killed, Justice League takes over the entire world and becomes the Justice Lords. But
right,
I don't know, man. I don't know. A lot of people have died under Batman's tutelage, and the worst he does is he kills a few bad guys. Maybe that's just because if you asked him, he was like, well, Jason was kind of a dick. Like, yeah, he was, wasn't he?
He was a little bit of a spoiled bastard. Yeah, okay.
Anyway. On Supergirl, they've cast Reign's mother, Betty Buckley from Eight Is Enough. That's a good old-timey comic book name, Betty Buckley. Mm-hmm. She's going to be playing Patricia Arias, the adopted mother of Reign, who is the season's big bad, I'm told.
Sure.
Apparently there's going to be some deep dark secrets. She says their relationship is made the TV Insider says their relationship is made all the more complex by the secrets Patricia holds. So, who knows, man, but she'll be making her first appearance in Wake Up, the 7th episode of the 3rd season, the one right before Crisis on Earth X, which is the big crossover.
I'm just going to make my bet right now that she will not appear in that crossover.
Oh, no. I think she'll just be on the episode before.
Yeah, she'll just be there to tease, like, hey, when you get back to our show.
Yeah.
Look at this thing we did.
Yeah. Over the Flash, Nuke the Fridge has reported that Tom Welling is open to being on the Flash. He says, I am willing to go on the Flash, and I have a few ideas on how it can happen if the network asks me. In fact, I think I can make it happen.
They only used Bart on Smallville, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's plenty of leeway.
Well, I mean, multiverse, man.
No, even within Smallville's universe, they could just pop over.
They might be able to make, they might be able to do, yeah.
I mean, you could make Smallville, Earth 34 or something.
So, look, man, this is putting it in CW's court, and I'm really hoping they take the bait, man, because I'd love to see Tom Welling show up as Superman. Of course, he's saying, like, oh, I have a few ideas. It has to be under my rules. It'd kind of suck if it was like, yeah, I'll be on the Flash as Max Mercury. I'm like, oh, God, come on, man. I don't want to see you,
Also, very related, I saw a few headlines that said, like, Tom Welling, willing to show up in DC property again. I was like, yeah, he's going to be like an investigator in Lucifer. What Like they've already got film of it.
Yeah, but that's like a Vertigo. That's Vertigo.
It is.
You know,
it is.
It's DC, but yeah.
I mean, I know where it stands, but come on.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Over to Legends of Tomorrow, it looks like Bleeding Cool is saying that Gorilla Grodd is going to be involved in the 7th episode of Justice League, of Legends of Tomorrow. Welcome to the Jungle. It's going to take place during 1960s Vietnam, and Grodd is going to be trying to turn the conflict into World War III. They also are reporting that the show is going to have an appearance by Dick Rory, the father of Mick Rory, who will be a soldier whose weapon of choice is a flamethrower. And he'll be played by Evan James, who played Wretch, one of the Ravagers that tortures Baby Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. See, man, it's all connected, guys. Can't hate on both. Or either one, or one of the... I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Over to Arrow. They put out this new Season 6 trailer for Arrow, and it's longer than the teaser, but contains some new footage. The emphasis is on Oliver's relationship with his son and the tension that will create with him remaining the Green Arrow. Nothing's too different, I think. Some cool editing. But I think there's just mostly just dramatic rhetoric from Slade and quick shots along with quick action shots along with that one overplayed shot now of "Tell me where the bad man is," and William like pointing at Oliver. I'm like, he's not 6. Why are you guys acting like writing him like he's like 4 years old, 6 years old?
Yeah.
Like it looks like he's damn near 14. Anyway.
Yeah, he's either a very traumatized or autistic 14-year-old in a lot of these shots.
Right. They're still playing it pretty close to the vest on Who Survived, though.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with William.
This is something that stood out about the trailer, though, is there's no team in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just about William, Kid, new characters, any of that. It's nothing about the actual... Like... It's almost an inverse of an Arrow Season 5 trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I'm getting some negative vibes about Arrow Season 6 so far. But I've got high hopes anyway.
Yeah. I don't have negative vibes by any stretch yet. It just
I do.
They're gonna
I'm just really sick of seeing William point at Oliver.
I am
dude,
sick of that shot.
Why would he?
No doubt.
I'm like, why would you think he was the bad man? That doesn't even make sense. You like hoped for him to help you.
Yeah.
While the real bad man did what he. I mean, oh my gosh, it's so stupid.
Okay, but also that actually makes more sense than it seems. Like in a truly traumatic situation, most people don't remember details accurately. So
you're saying he just remembered Oliver being Prometheus? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah. Like one of the best examples against eyewitness testimony is a wonderful little experiment where they just sent someone in to basically shoot the place up and then ask everyone afterwards like what was going on, and most people couldn't even describe the color shirt the person had on. They described the wrong shooter in certain cases because they brought in a few people. It was a circus. Couldn't name the color shirt, couldn't name the ethnicity of the person that shot, for God's sake. Like, couldn't name the amount of people or which shooter actually shot versus, the two other people that didn't. Or yeah, the point is, in like a moment of crisis, people don't remember shit well.
Yeah, that...
With any luck, they mentioned something like that instead of just having the poor kid point slowly upwards like he was rising from the crypt to point at a haunted soul that had put him there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was pretty obvious, even, I think, from a kid's point of view. You have, like, a guy holding you with a gun to your head, and then your dad trying to save you. Gee, I wonder who the good guy is. I don't know. It just seems dumb.
It would seem pretty obvious. But it was also, like, the guy you'd been talking to for a few months. Like, the guy you were more familiar with versus the guy you weren't, in that case. And the guy you were more familiar with got confronted with the guy that you didn't know very well, and the guy you're familiar with killed himself. And then you were just stuck being hugged weirdly by the guy that you didn't know very well.
Uh-huh.
Maybe there's something there. I mean, we saw it was like episode 8 or so where like Adrian approaches William. So I mean, they'd obviously had a lot of time to talk and bond, and probably way more than Oliver ever had at that point.
Yeah, sure.
So maybe it is as simple as like we were on a boat. I don't know what happened. My guy's dead, and you're not. I don't like the guy in green. That's what I know right now.
They were both wearing green.
I don't like the guy that survived with green.
Anyway, so over in a recent interview, featurette Paul Blackthorne and Katie Cassidy admitted that their scenes so far have been awkward and conflicted as the two try to figure out how to play their relationship a little differently this season. The executive producers almost commented because they love the spotlight, apparently. Wendy Miracle says it creates such an interesting cognitive dissonance for Oliver and especially for Lance. Thank you, Wendy. Mark Guggenheim says, we're going to keep playing with that. All right.
That's one of those. Yeah, no kidding.
Over to Titans. They've cast Lindsay Gort of the Carrie Diaries as Amy Rohrbach in the upcoming Titans show. She's currently billed as a recurring role that will be a partner to Brenton Thwaites' Dick Grayson. DC fans might possibly recognize her as Candy Morningstar from Lucifer. I thought she did a phenomenal job as Candy Morningstar. I'm happy that they're bringing in Amy Rohrbach from the comics. I enjoyed her character quite a bit on the Nightwing run, where he was a cop. You know, that was good stuff. I liked her. So that's awesome.
I really didn't know Amy Rohrbach at all, but yeah, the Morningstar girl did like a deceptively good job.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get to the end of that episode and think, oh, man, well played.
Yeah.
Well played, actress.
So, yeah. So, anyway, Marv Wolfman was talking about the new show. He says, my first reaction was way cool. Next was just keeping my fingers crossed that the characters, even with changes, would reflect the same attitudes and belief that we gave them. But then with Geoff Johns on it, we knew it would be excellent. His run of Titans was excellent. He also says, I don't care if they look the exact same way they do in the comics. After all, I don't think too many 6'7" girls with natural gold skin and solid green eyes show up at the casting call.
Fair.
What I care about is their character and personality, and that even with all the problems they face, that they pull together and do what's right. The Titans. The Titans to me are, when push comes to shove, optimists. All right.
I did like the Titans sounds hilarious. If it's ever like the Atom versus the Titans, it should be pronounced that way.
Yeah. Or if he makes belts for them all, they can all shrink.
Yeah.
You know? So apparently there's a Batman Ninja. Batman Ninja has been slated with the panel at the upcoming New York Comic-Con. Here's the official description. Warner Brothers in Japan and Warner Brothers Home Entertainment team for an eye-popping addition to the Batman animated legacy with Batman Ninja, a spectacular all-new anime film coming in 2018. Be among the first to witness the premiere of colorful footage from this imaginative take on Batman and many of his connected characters. The last anime adaptation was 2008's Batman Gotham Knight. I did not care for Batman Gotham Knight. I will watch this because it is Batman. And I do like a lot of the staples of anime as far as style goes. I'll be interested to see what they do. While I love the artwork and the style of it, I feel like a lot of anime doesn't really fit my Western narrative sensibilities. So I don't hold out a whole lot of hope that I'll enjoy the story so much.
There's a lot of it that falls into that. Like the style I don't love. Even shot composition, like if you go back to 2008, I don't care for where things come out of a frame. I mean, it all, I don't know. I don't want to disparage it. I know it's just like an entire art form that I don't relate to, but I just don't.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the shot composition. To me, it's always the pacing and the narrative that always kind of bugs me.
I can even get by the pacing, because a lot of times when you animate something, it comes across with a slightly kind of uncanny valley pacing that I can deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for God's sake, we were raised on BTAS. Every now and then there's a moment where you go, oh yeah, Batman was disgusted by something. His eyebrows should have raised faster. We know that.
Uh-huh.
You know? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just something about that style that I've never been able to. I just can't get my claws in.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely see it at some point. Check it out. See what's what.
I mean, I watched Arkham Knight.
You mean Gotham Knight?
Gotham Knight, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that was like multiple. It was like an anthology with a lot of different creators. Like, I liked a few of them, but I didn't like the overall product.
Right.
Speaking of something that people don't like, which is wildly popular, by the way, and they're going to keep doing, obviously, or else they wouldn't be making a movie. Warner Brothers just announced they're going to do a Teen Titans Go movie. It's going to be coming out July 27th, 2018 in movie theaters. I've seen this all over Facebook, and there are a lot of people putting those angry faces, the angry emoji.
Sure.
There are a lot of people who just hate Teen Titans Go. I don't watch it regularly, but what I've seen is freaking great. It's hilarious. And I don't know, all these people who are so angry about it can kiss my ass. Mainly because I feel like...
What was the song you sent me? No, you sent me an episode.
I don't know. Maybe.
And
I know it sent you a thing where they had in the background they had Batman v Superman jokes and stuff, and they had an urn they had Jason Todd's urn in the background next to a crowbar on a shelf.
You sent me that too, but it was Cyborg's favorite song, Dark of the Night or
maybe I don't know.
Bright of the Night or whatever. Shining.
I'm not sure
Night.
that was me.
Definitely was. That's gonna hurt me.
But look, man, if you don't like it, don't like it. It's for kids. But they have some really adult stuff in there as well for us to catch if we want to watch it. I enjoy the show when I actually do watch it. I keep meaning to go back and watch it, but I'm busy.
There you go. The night begins to shine.
Okay. I am aggravated by people who are so vehemently against this sort of thing. Just don't watch it, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Why are you
I'm
mad?
glad they're getting,
Why are you angry that kids are going to watch a thing?
I'm never gonna watch that, but
I probably will.
I'm pretty happy for anybody who's getting it. I mean, they're people. I mean, people love the show, just adore it. So hell, good for them, man.
Yeah, not everything that DC Entertainment puts out has to be exactly what you want it to be, whoever you are.
Oh, it by definition cannot be.
Yeah, it can't be.
Have we not learned that lesson?
To people who hate the DCEU or whatever you want to call it, just calm the hell down.
Yeah. I would think at this point, if anything, we've learned that we're not all going to get along on every property.
Nobody knows this. Everyone's just pissed off. It's a real bummer.
It
really
what? Is.
I have my opinions.
I'm super sad that we're in a generation where we're disappointed they're going to do a Teen Titans Go movie.
Yeah,
we're living in spoils. Come on,
but
have
you know
some
what?
Perspective.
I just bitched about Supergirl for 20 minutes. What do you want?
Oh no! The new featured Joker film might not be part of the connected universe. Come on, man. We're living in spoils.
Yeah, we are. I acknowledge that though. At least Supergirl is miles better than, and I'll probably get some shit for this, but it's better than Lois and Clark, man.
Oh,
it really is.
No, don't bother with the shit about that. It is. It's an upgrade over. It's actually tonally that show is not too different, but it's still I think an upgrade. I mean, we're living in blessed times.
Yeah.
As much as we want to disagree with it, and I love the disagreements and the arguments. God, don't we have to acknowledge that this is there's a lot of stuff going on that 20 years ago you wouldn't have even hoped for.
Yeah, it's weird because I understand the notion of being annoyed by something that doesn't I don't know, fit your process or what you feel like the character is. I do get upset when people are like, they ruined the character. Well, I don't really even feel that way about Nolan's Batman, and I don't like Dark Knight Rises. I don't feel like it ruined Batman. Clearly, Batman is still a heavy moneymaker and still around. Mm-hmm. You can't ruin an icon. You can't change a memory. Yeah. Necessarily.
And we didn't like that. We didn't like that movie in particular, but it's not like it ruined the character. Even that iteration has its strong points and big strong points.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's some flaws.
Anyway, so much, so many. Anyway, I'm excited that Teen Titans Go is coming out. I probably won't go to the movie theater to see it, but I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah.
I know I will. I'll get around to it unless I die. To some fan feedback here. Earlier this week, we posted our top 10 Batman the Animated Series episodes. I encourage you to go check that out if you're so inclined to watch and enjoy the Batman Animated Series. Nerdy-tastic, one of our followers on Twitter, said, "Is taking all of the willpower I have to continue concentrating on work and not go and make my list right now." And then she did go and make her own list. And it was a whole list of top 10 episodes and honorable mentions for Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. And she also said you should do an episode about your top 10s for the other shows too. I think we have intentions of doing so at some point. Probably not very soon, but at some point we will. And that was something that Wobbly Boots wanted. Wobbly Boots 85 wanted as well. So we will eventually do that. But Nerdy-tastic, guys, go follow her on Twitter. She's a lot of fun to talk to, really. I mean, I have a lot of fun talking to everybody on Twitter, and she's one of our how do you say it without sounding rude? Standards or Old Faithful. I don't know what you say. She's always got something to say about our show, and it's nice. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Most reliable interactions?
Yeah. One of our most loyal listeners, I would say. That'll work. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this episode. What say you, buddy?
Yeah, let's call it.
All right. We are DC On Screen. You can find every episode of DC On Screen at DCOnScreen.com. Proud members of the Giant Size Team Up Network. You'll hear about that in the outro a little bit more. That was, I didn't mean to mention that, but it's totally habit at this point. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, DC On Screen, Facebook, you can like us there. 205-259-6331 to leave us a voicemail. And you know what really helps us out is if you give us a positive rating and review over on iTunes. Helps people find us, helps to ensure that we'll be around if you want to keep hearing us rattle on about these things. And forgive us our trespasses, for we know not what we do. And until next time, keep some DC on your screen. Our opening narration was from Dan Jurgens' The History of the DC Universe, Part 3 of 10, as featured in DC 52, Week 4. It was performed by me, David Z. Robertson. Intro music by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band Future Elevators can be found on Spotify or future-elevators.com. Our introduction was performed by Eli Ophelders of Stealing the Remote, which lives on SoundCloud and can be found on iTunes and Stitcher. We're a proud member of the Giant Size Team Up Network, GiantSizeTeamUp.com. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. Visit maladjusted.tv for more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy and improvised web series, vlogs, parodies, and more.
Are you maladjusted? Well. Shopping for a car?
Yep, Carvana made financing a car as smooth as can be.
Oh, yeah?
I got pre-qualified instantly and had real terms personalized just for me.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
Well, I got to browse thousands of car options on Carvana, all within my budget.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
It does. I actually wanted a car that seemed out of my range, but I was able to add a cosigner and found my dream car.
It doesn't get much...
Oh, it gets smoother. It's getting delivered tomorrow.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today.